Cuba made progress on education. Yes, I think, really? Really?
Bernie Sanders loves dictators and tyrants. He's a communist who has a soft spot for Fidel Castro and the Cuban government. Or at least, that's what the Republicans, and some in the media, and even some of his top Democratic rivals for the presidency want you to believe. It's bullshit, of course. You can't actually find quotes from Bernie Sanders praising dictators by name, saying they're good people or good friends of his, because they don't exist. What you can find is stuff like this.
Here he is explaining why the Cuban people didn't rise up and help the U.S. overthrow Cuban leader Fidel Castro.
He educated their kids, gave them health care, totally transformed the society.
We're very opposed to the authoritarian nature of Cuba. But it's unfair to simply say everything is bad.
Just listen to what he says in that clip, which is being held up now as evidence of his unadulterated love for Castro's tyranny. We're very opposed to the authoritarian nature of Cuba. Sounds very pro-authoritarian, right? But people are also upset with the rest of the clip.
When Fidel Castro came into office, you know what he did? He had a massive literacy program. Is that a bad thing? Even though Fidel Castro did it?
There's a lot of dissidents imprisoned in Cuba.
That's right, and we condemn that.
Praising the education system in Cuba, or the literacy rate there, is a big no-no according to so-called moderate Democrats. Michael Bloomberg mocked Sanders, pointing to Castro's dark legacy of violence, before adding, "But sure, Bernie, let's talk about his literacy program." Mayor Pete also laid into Sanders in a tweet. "We need a president who will be extremely clear in standing against regimes that violate human rights abroad." You mean, like this guy?
Every child in Cuba gets a basic education. That's a huge improvement from where it was. They should be congratulated.
They should be congratulated, said President Obama, hero to the Democratic Party. And Obama didn't, by the way, just praise Castro's record on education by accident or as a slip of the tongue. Nope. He said it more than once. In fact, he even said it in Cuba to a crowd of Cubans.
Cuba has an extraordinary resource, a system of education which values every boy and every girl.
The thing is, when it comes to dictators and praising dictators or despotic regimes, Democrats and Republicans in glass houses really shouldn't throw stones. Joe Biden's campaign, for example, slammed Bernie, saying his Castro comments were part of, quote, a larger pattern throughout his life to embrace autocratic leaders and governments across the world. Joe Biden is saying Bernie Sanders likes dictators too much. The same Joe Biden who himself cozied up to dictators in Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Jordan, Egypt. In fact, Biden, as vice president, refused to call Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak a dictator, even in the midst of the Arab Spring, at the very moment Mubarak's security forces were attacking protesters.
I would not refer to him as a dictator.
Wow. Then there's Michael Bloomberg, Mayor Bloomberg, whose campaign launched a thread making up quotes from Bernie praising dictators, and even a hashtag, since deleted, called Bernie on Despots. Yes, the same Michael Bloomberg, seen here yucking it up with his special guest, Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, in a New York Starbucks, is now giving lectures on standing up to despots and dictators. Then again, Michael Bloomberg, like Joe Biden, has a habit of denying dictators are even dictators.
Xi Jinping is not a dictator. He has to satisfy his constituents or he's not going to survive.
He's not a dictator?
No, he has a constituency to answer to.
Sorry, what? Bloomberg, Biden, these are the people who are going to tell us that Sanders is in bed with dictators? Seriously? Well, how about Team Trump? Are they going to weaponize Bernie's positive words from the past about social programs in the USSR or literacy rates in communist Cuba? Well, maybe they should first have a word with their boss, who has said he is literally in love with the world's worst communist, the world's worst dictator, Kim Jong-un.
He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. We fell in love.
A president who went sword dancing with the Saudi royals on his first official trip abroad, who called the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi my favorite dictator, who said to the unelected president of China,
I want to thank you. Again, you're a very special man.
And don't even get me started on the Trump-Putin bromance. But it's not just Trump. Here's Barack Obama bowing to the Saudi king. Here's Hillary Clinton with the late Mubarak, who she called a friend of her family. And here's John Kerry having an intimate private dinner with Bashar al-Assad. So look, don't buy the crap that the media and top Democrats and cynical Republicans are trying to sell you about Sanders. Frankly, they're all charlatans and hypocrites. Because the irony is that Bernie Sanders is the only candidate running for president who has given an entire speech about the importance of fighting authoritarianism and tyranny around the world by building a global democratic movement to counter it.
Authoritarians seek power by promoting division and hatred. We will promote unity, inclusion, and love.